Hello, my name is Benji and welcome to Dice vs Cards. Today we're trying something new and abusing the bastion of information that is BoardGameGeek.com to bring you the highest rated games of this year to be forgotten, that is 2020. There's nothing particularly elegant or nuanced about how this list is made. Simply type in the year and sort the list. Et voila. What I will do though, to up the entertainment factor, is to look at each of these objectively and decide whether I would hand over my hard-earned cash to get them to the table. That's highly subjective, of course. My likes might not be your likes and so on and so forth. But I played enough games at this point to hit more than I miss. So that'll have to do. For the first time in Dice vs Cards history, we're going from 10 to 1. And today's video will get us from 10 to 6. So bear with me while I get this counting in reverse lock down pat. King of Tokyo Dark Edition. Now I spent an inordinate amount of time deciding whether this should be an honourable mention. As strictly speaking, it's just a sheep in wolf's clothing. Now I'm not a cynical man, but the idea of adding a noir artistic theme to King of Tokyo just doesn't get me up in the morning. Don't get me wrong, they haven't skimped on the production values. It's a beautiful looking version, but it won't be universally liked. This is supposed to be a game with broad appeal, and so it begs the question, was it worth it? Mechanically, the addition of the Wicked track was just a way to badge it as a slightly different game. But let's not kid ourselves. The conversation, I imagine, went something a little bit like this. Boss, you really think we're going to shift a bazillion units by putting some black and white paint on the box and cards? Maybe not. Well, what was that mechanic that didn't make the final cut in the original game? Oh, what, the Kaiju track? Yeah, but we should rename it into something more sinister. How about the Wicked track? Sold. Now next time you wake me up at lunch, it better be an emergency. Tang Garden. A tile placement and set collection game for those of you that like a bit of Eastern philosophy in your games, where peace, harmony and tranquility are emperor and empress. It's a good looking game, that's for sure, and not one that's going to break the bank either. I really like the idea of the extra dimensions added to conventional tile placement, with you being able to place the floor tiles, or whatever they're called, and then add decorations in the form of three-dimensional miniatures representing trees or buildings and the like. But then, after certain placements, you'll also be adding to the visual panorama around the edge of the board, adding a final layer of mechanical synergy, as it's the player that ties this all together in the most feng shui way possible that's going to take home the spoils. I must admit this one flew under the radar a bit for me, but now I've seen it, I can't wait to give it a whirl. I imagine this one will mosey its way into my collection sooner rather than later. Quick question though, what is a Tang Garden? Viscounts of the West Kingdom. The third and final part of the West Kingdom trilogy after Architects and Paladins. It's also a perfect example of a game that will highlight the flaws of my not so complicated formula for this list. As it was released so late in the year, you don't have to be too much of an oracle to know that this will comfortably ensconce itself higher on this list as we progress into and through 2021. This is certainly up there in terms of complexity with Paladins of the West Kingdom, and each of the trilogy has had its own cool little bolt-on to conventional worker placement mechanics. With Architects, it was the more you put in, the more you get out mechanic. Paladins gave you your own player board to place workers on, and the communal action took place outside of this. And now with Viscounts, we have a splash of deck building added into the mix too. Early reviews seemed pretty great for this final part, and I must say the game had me at deck builder. I've been slowly picking these up and haven't got round to Paladins yet. I may just skip that for this, as it sounds pretty great. Forgotten Waters is the latest in the line of Crossroads games, published by Plaid Hat Games, where you work together as a team to deal with challenges from both inside and out. The theme this time is pirate adventure, and whilst there's no traitor aspect, you will be trying to progress your own personal goals while simultaneously supporting the game's common objectives. This game differs in quite a few ways from Dead of Winter, it being app based being the most notable, and the fact that it eschews a traditional game board for a ring bound scenario book, and the fact that not all mechanics are spelt out for you. And sometimes the choice you make in moving the story forward is based on the symbology on the cards and your gut feeling. So in that sense, the storytelling elements come to the fore that little bit more. You'll also find yourself with more specific roles on the ship whilst playing, and for those reasons, this is the Crossroads game with the most appeal for me. I remember being psyched for Dead of Winter, but felt its ham-fisted traitor mechanic and its pacing were a little bit off-putting. But here I can see reasons for optimism of this being my first enjoyable Crossroads experience. Calico is another tile placement to add to the list, and where Tan Garden brought the zen, this bad boy brings the putty cats. Now, although the box art might suggest our feline friends are front and centre, it is in fact a quilt making game at its heart, with the folks behind the game taking full advantage of the dual use of the Calico name. Here's what it says on the tin then. Turns are simple. Select a single patch tile from your hand and sew it into your quilt. Then draw another patch into your hand from the 3 available. If you're able to create a colour group, you may sew a button onto your quilt. If you're able to create a pattern combination that is attractive to any of the cats, it will come over and curl up on your quilt. How bloody cute is that? My question though is, what does this do different to all those other tile placement games I have? Right now I'm not too sure. If you don't have anything similar, then this looks like it could be a solid purchase, but for me I'll be holding off until people start shouting at me to give it a go. So there you have it, the first part of a list full of new, revised and expanded game systems. There's definitely a hint of BGG duplication bias on here, as there are only so many completely original games to choose from. But one thing's for sure, there ain't a dud amongst them, and if they or their gaming families are new to you, then what does it matter? However, that's it from me. I'll see you next time.